Very good morning, students. Welcome back. Last class we discussed about different power consumption in the sensor network. Today we'll discuss operating systems and execution environment. How operating system will does the allocation of the resources in the wireless sensor network. Basically, there are some major goals of operating systems. They are it make access to device resources, protects resources from concurrent access, process with separate address spaces, and it's supported by a memory management unit. All these specifically it manages resources how best effectively it manages the resources. Very important function of the operating system. It's scheduling as well as allocations. Everything is does by this particular operating system, and these are not available in the microcontrollers. So now we are just studying the wireless sensor network. So in that case we have to see a different programming model, how the execution will takes place. So there are three types of programming model found in the wireless sensor network. One is sequential programming model, second one is process based programming model, third one is event based programming model. In the sequential programming model, all the sequence or execution will takes place sequentially one after the other. So no concurrence, no parallel operations. So it's a simplest programming model. Okay, so here only thing is risk of missing data is there. So what happens? First thing, here it polls the sensor. It polls the sensor in the sense it makes the sensor to capture the data. Then it start the process. So next step is, the first step is polls the sensor. The next step is process sensor data. Then the third step is poll transceiver to transmit the constructed packet. So all these are executed in sequence: pole sensor, process sensor data, pole transceiver, process received packet. So this is very important programming model. Most of the time, okay, so we miss the data. So and the main thing is it executes sequentially one after the other. So this is the first basic programming model. Then second one is process based programming model. So in the traditional OS we have this. Based on the interrupts, context switching will takes place. So since it is a concurrence in nature, suppose you can see here, I just take the pen. So it will execute the sensor process. If any process will comes, suddenly the control will pass from the sensor process to packet process. After completing this process, then it will return back to the sensor process. It just like a, you already studied interrupts. Okay, so interrupts are nothing but especially uninterrupted. Okay, uninterrupts in the sense whenever interrupt occur, the execution control will transfer from main program to the interrupt program. So after executing interrupt program, again it will come back to the main program. So the same thing it will also execute. So process based programming model. So if any process occurs, then the control will shift to that process. It completes the execution, again come back. So this is the second one. Then third one is event based programming model. So the here the system is keep on checking the event to occur. Okay, so it perform regular processing or be idle and reacts to events when they happen immediately. For example, so many events are there. So if any packets are received, if any timers are expired, what to do? So these are just like a events which are exist in the, or which are occurred in the system, wireless sensor system. So if that event occurs, then the process will start. So here it is keep on just searching sensor event to handler. So once any event occurs, it will start to that process. Then after that it will send that processed data through the transceiver. So it will construct the packets and send. So radio event handler. So these are the different programming models are used in the wireless sensor network. So three important: sequential, process based and event based. So this is the simplest thing. So after this we have to study, very important is network architecture. How wireless sensor network architecture looks. First we have to start from sensor network scenario. So there are so many network scenario. So in this scenarios, okay, so we have source, we have these things. Okay, some nodes will act as a source, some node will act as a sink. What do you mean by this source? So source are the, basically these are information provider. It provides the information. Source, it generates the information. Source. So sinks, it is nothing but basically it requires the information. So sinks. Okay, so even you can go for this particular network also. We have the one source and one sink. Here also we have the one source. Here internet itself will act as a sink. See the things, very important. And all these scenarios we call it as a, see all these scenario we call it as a single hop communication. See, so why we call it as a single hop? Because source to sink communication is possible within the range, because so it's a very short range application. So source to sinks communication is possible in one hop only. There is no intermediate nodes. If there is a intermediate nodes exist in the communication, then we call it as a multiple hop communication. So since these are the example or scenario belongs to single hop communication, because source is there and sink is there, so within one hop, so that area is there to communicate from source to sink. Next we see multi-hop network. See here, source is here, then sink is here. So it cannot communicate within one hop. See, because of the limitation. So limited range of wireless communication. So it cannot possible. In that case, the source will transmit data to the intermediate nodes. From the intermediate nodes, it will reach to the sink. So this is called multiple hop network. Because why multiple hops? Because intermediate nodes are required to make communication between source to sink. So that's why it is a multiple network. Send packets to an intermediate node. Intermediate node forwards packet to its destination. It's sink. So this is called store and forward. So it just does the store and forward, that is intermediate nodes. Okay, so this is called single hop multiple hop networks. So if the area, communication area is very long, so in that case source and sinks communication within the single hop is not possible. It uses the intermediate node to make multiple hop communication. Then in the again network scenario, we have different multiple sinks are there, multiple resources are here. Here we have multiple, all these are sources, multiple source, single sink. Okay, so here single source and multiple sinks. See here, so these are the sink. So here multiple sources, single sink. Here single source and multiple sinks. Here both multiple sources as well as multiple sinks. Okay, so this is called multiple sink, multiple sources. So in the network scenario, especially sensor network scenarios, all these are happens. Okay, so based on the application and requirement, these are very important part of the network scenarios. Okay, so sometimes they have the single hop communication, sometimes they have the multiple hop communication, but these are there. Now, okay, so there are different types of mobility, different sources of mobility in the sensor network. We call it as a node mobility. Node mobility in the sense, what happens in the wireless sensor network, there are huge number of nodes are there. Some nodes will act as a sources. In that case, some nodes participates in the source and sink, and they really move, because we cannot expect, we cannot predict the movement of the node in the wireless sensor network. Some nodes are moving here and there, so that is also possible. We call it as a node mobility. Then we have, first mobility is node mobility, second mobility we call it as a sink mobility. So destination, sometimes destination moves itself. In that case it's very difficult to manage the network, sensor network, if destination itself will move. So in that case it's very difficult. And even sometimes event mobility, whatever event we are expecting, it may be any receiving of data, receiving of packets, sending of packets, timer expires. In that case, even sometimes event itself will move. So in that case, in WSN, event that is to be observed moves around, event moves around. So these are the some different sources of mobility: node mobility, sink mobility, event mobility. So these are the things we are studying in this particular class. So today we just discussed about the operating system, execution environment, and architecture, sensor architecture. Especially in the wireless sensor network, we have source, sink, mobility, as well as single hop and multiple hop. In the next class we'll see the different operating systems, as well as figure of merits, then all these things related to sensor network, especially communication, web, internet. Sometimes we have to go for just interface in the wireless sensor node. So that we'll see in the next class. Thank you.